Okay, it's working now. I pressed the start recording button and it it wasn't doing anything, so I wasn't sure if this worked. Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. Um, I didn't really care for this movie that much, but at the same time, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. I will be watching because there's actually 5 movies. It's like there's a trilogy, about Mal and friends, and then there's like 2 spin-off movies that are about like Wonderlands and stuff, which I think is pretty cool, honestly. I feel like that happens sometimes with stuff where if it's like fairy tale or like Disney themed things, and then there's like Alice in Wonderland stuff that ends up being like a spin-off or whatever. I think that's like a good as like a sort of world to go off of for a spin-off. So on Hulu, because that's what I have access to, they have Rise of Red, but then they don't have the other, like the sequel to that, which I guess I'm not surprised because that actually came out this year. I thought it would have. I didn't think they'd still be making these movies because they started in like 2015. But yeah, the 5th Descendants is not on Hulu, so I won't be watching that. But I think that's fine. Because I've heard these movies, I guess with Rise of Red and its sequel, they get worse. It's like the series kind of actually just gets worse after the second one, is what it seems like. So yeah, I'm fine with only watching the first 4. Like, I'm curious about Rise of Red anyway. But yeah, in terms of the first 3 movies, I'd say the second one is still my favorite. The first one's pretty good though. And then the third one, it's not really like it's bad. It's just the plot feels really weak, honestly. It feels like the weakest out of the storylines. I feel like the way I could describe the third one is like if you're watching this, like the whole trilogy, and you actually get like attached to the characters and their like interactions with each other and stuff, then you're gonna be like fine with this one. But if you kind of don't really care about the main characters that much and you're just kind of watching them, then, or if you're here for like the actual plot of these movies, this one's not for you. I mean, that is like one of the things I did like with it, is that it's like Mal and her friends that are stopping the villain, but then there's like a bunch of other characters that kind of get to be part of the plot and stuff, and that's cool. So that's kind of like the thing that kind of gets my attention with this movie, but everything else not really. But what is kind of nice though is, at least since it's like finishing a trilogy, they still have like, I think, pretty much all the same actors. No one's been like randomly recast, even for like the adults too, like Ben's parents or the fairy godmother and stuff, which I think is nice, because I feel like sometimes for trilogies of movies, by the time it gets to the second or even like the third movie, there's like, especially for like kids movies and stuff, there's characters that will just like end up changing actors or whatever. But no, they keep everybody, and I appreciate that. But a lot of the amount of screen time for some characters feels really weird. Like, no one gets like individual like storylines or anything. It's just because this movie, I'm assuming it's like the shortest of the 3. I don't remember, but it definitely felt pretty short. I mean, instead it's mostly about the main plot of like stopping the villain. That's kind of about it. But it's so funny that like this series started as like this group of 4 friends, even though Mal and Evie are the ones that get like the most attention throughout the series, which I'm like, on one hand I'm fine with because I like them both, but like Jay and Carlos throughout the whole trilogy get the shorter end of the stick, and it like shrinks as the movies go on. They don't really get any character development, and well, I feel like not really anyone gets like barely any. Only some characters get character development, I should say. But yeah, Carlos and Jay kind of don't really get much. I feel like Carlos specifically doesn't really get much to do. I'll talk more about Jay later, actually. And I'm kind of bummed with the way they kind of change around characters, it's interesting is like Doug, for example, Evie's boyfriend, gets to be part of, he never really felt like an individual character. He kind of just, except for in the first movie, he kind of just felt like Evie's love interest. He's sort of just there. And I was kind of bummed because, like, Lonnie, I think her name was Lonnie, yeah, Mulan's daughter, she was a cool character. She was introduced in the second movie and got to actually be part of the plot, and she was cool. I liked her, but she isn't in this movie at all. Like, I was watching it and I'm like, and they're like assembling their team and I'm like, where is she? So they kind of swap out characters a bit. They bring some characters back, they introduce new characters, but there's like a lot of them that just don't really get much to do. There's maybe only like 4 characters that are actually important. That's about it. I think I'll just kind of go through my notes, but I will say my notes are written like a bit out of order. I was kind of writing my general thoughts on some stuff as I was writing the notes, so I might kind of jump around a bit. I do like that this one starts with the 4 main characters actually going to the aisle, and they're finally going to do the thing of, hey, let's, you know, let more villain kids into the school. Like, it took up until like the 3rd movie, and that's like supposed to be a big thing with this one. It's like what it's kind of set up to be, and they invite 4 kids, but those kids really, they don't get to experience being in Oregon because the villain's plot's going on or whatever. They don't actually get to enjoy being there, and they also don't really end up being plot important because they end up picking 4 kids. One of them's Dizzy, which I liked her as a character. Actually, she seemed cool, but she gets like literally, there's like a bunch of characters that literally get put to sleep for most of the movie. She's one of them. You get to see her like in the beginning a little bit with Evie, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be cool. She's gonna get to, like, I'm assuming, hang out with the main characters and continue being friends with Evie, but she gets like sidelined really fast. The character Smee, of all people, I guess, he has 2 kids. They're twins. Their names only get said like once. They don't do anything with the plot. They barely get any screen time, and I swear they don't have any dialogue, so I feel like it was kind of a random pick. I feel like that's what sucks, because like with the let's invite 4 more kids to the island thing, or to Oregon or whatever, I feel like that's a good way to be like, okay, this is a chance for them to introduce like more villain kids. Oh yeah, they're like officially referred to in the movies like the VKs as like the villain kids, so I guess that's what I'll refer to them as. I thought, okay, this could be a way to get more interesting characters, but it's like they waste 2 of the slots on Smee's kids that literally contribute. They don't really get to be characters or do anything at all. They're kind of forgettable in this movie. And then Dr. Facilier, he has a daughter. Oh yeah, you get to see Dr. Facilier too. It's only for like one scene, but he seemed pretty cool, and he's like one of the only villains that seems like he actually has like a good relationship with this kid. I was kind of hoping we get to see more of him, but he has a daughter. I think her name was Celia, and they set her up like she's gonna be like potentially plot important, like she actually gets to accompany the main characters and stuff, but then she just ends up, she doesn't really get to help them with much, and she literally just gets like held hostage by the main villain, and that's about it. She kind of just tags along, and I feel like she could have been a really cool character. I liked her personality. They set her up as doing like all these like card tricks and stuff with like the tarot cards, and I thought, okay, maybe she's gonna have like magic or something, or be able to contribute something with the story, but no. So that was a bummer. So I'm glad it was her out of like the 4 villain kids that like get to be picked or whatever, that gets to be like plot important. She's definitely the most interesting. But yeah, that was like such a waste in terms of like, hey, this is a way to introduce new characters, and it's like they don't get to do anything. They do bring back Uma, Harry, and I found out the oh no, it's written in my notes somewhere. I think his name is Gil, Gaston's son. Those 3 get brought back. To be fair, Gil never really is, he's kind of just there. I mean, he does have some like funny comments, but he's not really like an important character or anything. what I do find kind of funny is I liked the interactions between Harry, Jay, and Gil. It was kind of interesting to me, especially with Gil and Jay, because like Jay's never given a love interest in these, but like his other three friends are. Actually, Jay's not really given like any like plot stuff in this movie, or I think even really like the second one, especially in this one. But he's like constantly hanging out with Gil, and they say at the end like, hey, let's take a year off of school and like go traveling together. So I feel like if this wasn't a Disney movie, they'd probably end up as a couple, and I feel like it would fit, honestly. And then Hook kind of tags along with them too, and he flirts with literally everyone in this movie. He's like the most bi character out of everyone. Like he tells Jay that he has a gorgeous face at one point. He flirts with Jane immediately upon meeting her, keeps asking if Mal is single. He sort of like tries to flirt with Uma a bit. I do like that they don't really end up as a couple though. She kind of just seems not interested. But yeah, that's the thing that's interesting with these movies, is like so many of these characters, I'm assuming they're supposed to be like older teens, young adults at this point, especially because like Ben literally proposes to Mal at the start of this movie. Like she's going to get married, so I'm assuming they're all like maybe 18 or whatever, because they started on the first movie at like 16. But there's so many characters that have like romantic tension but then there's only like a couple of them that actually get to like be in romantic relationship. Like Ben and Mal are like the most obvious, of course. Carlos and Jane, they do get like a couple of scenes in this together, but they I don't think they ever actually get to kiss. They only hug. And then with Evie and shoot, I'm already forgetting his name. The nerdy guy that she's dating, Doug. Yeah, their relationship is like, they're kind of like implied to be a couple in every way, but they never get like a confession scene or anything, so it's like kind of funny to me, but kind of like I wish they got something. I mean, Evie does have an entire song in this movie when Doug gets like put to sleep about like wanting to kiss him. I feel like she kind of gets like a lot of the really good songs in this entire series. I've like consistently liked hers, but she gets this whole song and she kisses him to wake him up, you know, kind of like Snow White, and it works. So that does show like, okay, they have true love. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about those two together. I do kind of like that they're kind of already a couple, even if sometimes it's not like super made as obvious as like the other characters, but I kind of wish they got like a cute moment too, in the same way that like, I don't know, Ben and Mal or like Carlos and Jane do. Or like Mal, like she's with Ben and stuff, and I do like that Ben, as he's like an important character in all of the movies. Actually, the fact that he gets to be his own character and he's not just like, you know, the love interest prince character for Mal and stuff, I appreciate that. I do like him as a character. I feel like Mal, especially in this movie though, has more like, it seems more kind of like chemistry. That's the word I've been trying to remember. It has more chemistry with I feel like she does with Evie, but I feel like especially with Uma, specifically in this movie, like the villain of this movie is Audrey, which I have to talk about that. But yeah, they bring back Uma. This is like the Uma redemption arc movie, basically, where she ends up having to like begrudgingly work with the heroes and stuff. And it's about her and Mal learning to trust each other, and they end up saving the day and like becoming friends and stuff, which is cool. But I feel like, yeah, Mal has more chemistry with Uma than she does with Ben. Yeah, that's the other thing. The poster, even though I know it's like kind of blurry and low quality and stuff, the poster makes it seem, you know, there's someone with blue hair in there that's obviously like Hades, makes it seem like he's gonna be the main villain. Oh yeah, because that's Celia, Dr. Facilia's daughter on the right, which, like I said, she doesn't really get much to do. And then there's Uma on the left, and you know she's like the secondary protagonist basically. And then Hades is in the middle, so you think, okay, they're gonna like go fight Hades as a villain and stuff, which could seem like kind of cool because we haven't had like one of the adult villains as a villain since like the first movie. You know, like it was set up fine of like, you know, we had Maleficent and then we had Uma and then it looks like we're gonna have Hades. No, what they end up doing instead is Audrey ends up becoming the villain, which her crash out is valid, you know, like I feel like she felt like more of a villain in the first movie though. Like her boyfriend gets put under a love spell and he falls in love with Mal even when the spell's broken and stuff. I mean, I feel like even without the spell he would have fallen in love with Mal anyway. It was kind of inevitable. So Mal's like basically a homewrecker. And then Audrey has been raised her entire life, you know, by her grandmother of like, okay, you need to like marry the prince and get our family like higher status or whatever. But then Ben ends up choosing Mal, and Audrey's grandmother gives her shit for it, you know, even in this movie. I mean, I did kind of wonder if she really loved Ben at all, or if it was just like I'm gonna marry him for his status of, you know, I get to become like queen or whatever. And then the start of the movie is kind of her breaking point where, you know, Ben proposes to Mal, and Audrey, I think for her it's like she's also mad about everyone in the kingdom just automatically accepting Mal. I mean, Mal has like saved the kingdom twice and stuff, and she's proven she's good and she loves Ben. There's no like sinister plot with her or anything, but I kind of do get what Audrey's going through of like, you know, like, oh, everyone's suddenly cheering for Mal or whatever. So I understand why she becomes the villain and stuff. It does just feel weird to me though, because like she's treated as like the like teen girl romantic rival character in the first movie, and then she literally isn't in the second movie at all because she's like off screen doing stuff, and then the third movie she's back and she's the main villain now. I mean, I do think it is kind of interesting of like having one of the like good guy kids becoming a villain. I do think that's like kind of a fun concept because it was something I was like thinking about when I was watching the other ones. And I feel like if there's anybody who was going to do that, it probably would be Audrey. But I feel like she, as like a villain in this movie, she could have been better, honestly. Like, she gets like screen time and stuff, but half of it is just, oh yeah, the way she ends up even like becoming a villain anyway, she literally just steals Maleficent's magic scepter from the museum, and she ends up being like basically all powerful, which is so funny to me because like Maleficent I think already had her scepter in the first movie, and her whole goal was like trying to gain the fairy godmother's wand, you know, of like I'm gonna take over everything. But you see how powerful her scepter actually is just from like even Audrey using it in this movie, where she ends up putting the entire kingdom to sleep. Oh wait, I just realized that's her hair on the back of the poster. I was like, what's that gray blob? So it's like they don't technically show her, but she's there. But yeah, she feels like a really weak villain. Like half the time she's in like her mother's old cottage where she was like raised by fairies and stuff, and she's staring into the scepter and maniacally laughing and kind of keeping track of the heroes. It's kind of in the same way as like the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz, but like not as good basically. And then she does have a final fight with Mal at the end, but it's only for like a second, and it's just her using the scepter against like Dragon Mal. And then oh yeah, that's the other thing too, Mal has this, there's the plot item of this movie is this little flame stone thing that belongs to Hades, and Mal uses it. And you think it's gonna cause more Hades powers related things to happen, but like Mal's just in dragon form using the stone. I feel like her being a dragon at the end was like kind of unnecessary. Yeah, and there's some other stuff with that too. And then Hades, I don't know. I feel like the poster, you know, they make him seem like he's gonna be the main villain. He's not actually, he's a villain, but he's not the villain of this movie like at all. I mean, he's not like a perfect person or anything. They have this reveal. It's super early on and it's said in like the most casual way too. Where it turns out like, okay, he's Mal's dad, and it just feels so random to me, especially because like you don't learn who the parents are of like any of the other like main villain kids and stuff. Like for Evie or Carlos or Jay, you don't learn who any of their parents are. You know, and Mal there was already so much set up with like her and her mom, and oh yeah, about her mom Maleficent. You don't even see her in the lizard form or anything in this. She just is like non-existent in this movie, which I thought was interesting. Is like Mal is on like good terms with her dad at the end, and they end up like taking down the barrier and whatever, but they never restore her mom, which I'm kind of mostly commenting because Mal, when she's talking to her dad, is like, he's like, oh, I left your mom and whatever. And Mal is like, hey, I care about her too, because, you know, at least she didn't abandon me and whatever. Like, she wasn't a good mom, but like, you know, at least she was there, you know, instead of Hades not being there. So I just assumed her mom was going to get restored at the, I mean, yeah, I did want to see Kristen Chenoweth as Maleficent like one more time. That's kind of the only reason, but yeah, no, they don't. So I mean, yeah, like Hades abandoning his kid and stuff was bad, but that's kind of like the worst thing that he did. I mean, okay, he does have an entire musical number, which is a duet with Mal, which was actually a pretty cool song where he does tell her of like, you know, you having daddy issues makes you stronger, and it's like, what? So yeah, he's not a perfect person. I feel kind of mixed on him. I think it's hard for me because like, you know, all of the villain parents and stuff are based on, you know, the Disney villains and stuff, but their personalities are like a bit different. Like Maleficent felt like Maleficent, but like she was more comedic. Hades is kind of just like the deadbeat dad. He also has like a different look too, where he has like this leather jacket and kind of like a punk look, which I guess I'm like, okay, now I kind of see where Mal gets like her outfits from and stuff. So I feel like this version of Hades was like good as like design wise and everything, is like, you know, supposed to be this like disappeared father on Mal, but in terms of like the Disney Hades from like, I know this is Disney, but you get what I mean, from Hercules, had the vibe of like car salesman and was like genuinely really funny as a character, but he feels like a completely different character in this, which, you know, that's got to be on purpose, but at the same time I'm like, oh man, because at first I was excited of like, okay, he's gonna be in this movie, you know, that's gonna be pretty cool. And yeah, no, he doesn't actually really have a lot of screen time either. He's literally just there at the beginning and the end. I mean, he does give Mal the like plot device item, and he does have like some disagreements with her in the movie, and there's like a good line he does say about, you know, once Audrey, she stops being the villain, she actually ends up in like a coma or whatever, and they need to wake her up, they need Hades for that, and he tells Mal of like, oh, so one of you good guys, and I'm like paraphrasing this, messes up and you know, it's treated as whatever, and like it's no big deal, but then if a villain messes up, you know, they're sent back under lock and key and stuff. Cause like Audrey was like literally trying, I mean, you know, she put everyone in the kingdom to sleep and turned some of them into stone, and that's like more than Maleficent got to accomplish, you know. I mean, she did turn into a dragon in the wedding chapel and stuff, but, or not wedding chapel, during the coronation, whatever. But like Audrey did worse. I mean, she does end up waking up and she says she's sorry, and the characters do apologize to her, which I'm actually really glad that Mal and Ben apologized to her instead, because they did wrong her and everything. But then Audrey's just kind of like left off the hook. And the thing is, I'd understand it if it was like, you know, she got controlled by a villain or whatever, if it wasn't her own choice. I mean, the scepter does call out to her at one point, but like it was entirely like Audrey's choice, it seemed like, for the most part, of becoming a villain. She literally tells like Mal and everyone like, yeah, I did want to hurt all of you on purpose, and she's just kind of let go with like a slap on the wrist or anything. And I feel like Hades' point was exactly right, of like, if she was one of the like, even one of the villain kids, not even just one of the adult villains and stuff, she would have absolutely been like sent back to the Isle. But because she's, you know, she's Sleeping Beauty's daughter or whatever, or granddaughter, whatever, she, you know, no consequences for her. So there are like, there are actually some like good points that are brought up in this movie, in terms of like the world of the movie, like the whole like Isle politics thing this time is, Mal wants the barrier closed permanently, just because Hades tries like one time to get through it at the beginning, and even then that like fails, because they originally started as like, yeah, we're gonna keep coming to the Isle and opening the barrier and like letting kids through, but she's worried about you know, the villains coming through, and because of that she's like, yeah, we're just not gonna let anyone through at all, which causes a lot of things of like, not just, you know, she promised these kids, if we're gonna, you know, let you actually come to Oridon and everything, but like that means the villain kids on like the Oridon side, you know, going to Oridon prep or whatever, they can't go visit their parents or anything, and it just creates a lot of problems. I'm so glad there's a scene like way later on in the movie where like everyone in Mal's party, like traveling with her, I mean, calls her out for that and explains like why she's wrong. That was like so well deserved, honestly. And they do end up like opening the barrier at the end and everything. But yeah, okay, let me actually, I haven't actually been reading through my notes at all. That was just kind of off the top of my head. You know, I will say with this movie, the wigs actually look way better. I feel like Mal's the character that goes through so many hair changes compared to everyone else. Her hair's like a lot darker. It was like a darker purple at the beginning and it looked really good, but then her hair ends up like such a dark blue for some reason, where it's like almost the same color as Evie's. And I feel like that just doesn't work, because like blue is already like Evie's color and Mal's color is purple, so it was kind of weird, and the blue hair didn't really look good on her, unless it was supposed to be on purpose of like, you know, and it's not even like she finds out that she's Hades' kid in this. I gotta specify that she's known the whole time, it's just she like pretends he doesn't exist and stuff, and they're like forced to see each other again in this movie. So if it was like because of that, of like, okay, that's why she has blue hair now, I'd get it, but no. And that's the other thing too, like you'd think like, oh, that's why she's so strong, of like her dad is like a god and her mom is an evil fairy that like turns into a dragon, but like Mal inherits absolutely nothing from Hades, even in this movie, like genetically, and that's just so funny to me, and why it still feels so unnecessary for like, I'm fine with him as like a character in this movie and stuff, or even, you know, his points that he makes with Mal about like what to do about the Isle and stuff, and her being the main character, like they still could have like scenes to interact, but I feel like him specifically being her dad just felt unnecessary, because like she gets nothing from him. Like her big magic thing is still like, yeah, turning into a dragon and whatever. She doesn't gain any, you know, like fire powers. I mean, then again, that would make her, she's already treated as like the most OP character in this series anyway, so I feel like giving her like a second set of powers or whatever would just be really redundant and unnecessary. But at the same time, it's like, you have a character as cool as Hades that is revealed in this movie to be her dad, and that affects like nothing, you know. It just, yeah, it feels like a waste. Let's see what else. We do get to see what some of the villains look like we finally get to see Lady Tremaine, for example. I like that she dresses, that's the cool thing with a lot of the villains, I guess, except for Hades, that they do kind of dress the same as like their animated counterparts. Wait, let me see. There's a point when Mal gets turned into an old lady, kind of like, that looks pretty much identical to like the evil queen from Snow White when she's in disguise. And I thought that was gonna last like longer through the movie. There's like some interesting like cosmetic stuff that happens with some of the characters, but then they don't really end up lasting. Like Mal gets turned into an old lady, and then the curse ends up going away when she gets to the Isles because evil magic doesn't work there. And then she ends, so I thought, oh, okay, that's gonna mean like if she goes back to Oridon, she's gonna be like stuck in that form or something. No, Mal gets to be her normal self for like the rest of the movie, and I feel like it could have been interesting if she had been stuck in like the old lady form. I could see it kind of working almost, like I was saying, almost like Howl's Moving Castle in a sense, of having it like more to do with her character or something. But no, it's literally just like treated as like a gag. Or on a similar note, in terms of like cosmetics, one of the things that Audrey ends up doing is she turns Ben into a beast form, which I thought was kind of cool actually, because you do hear him roar sometimes throughout the series. That's kind of about it though, in terms of like things he inherited from his dad. I mean, then again, the thing is with his dad is like, even though everyone refers to him as Beast, which feels really mean because like he's not in the beast form anymore, like in terms of where Descendants like starts. He's human again. It's like the whole thing with like the end of Beauty and the Beast, but everyone just they just do not give him like a normal name in this, and I'm like, bruh. So like, yeah, Ben shouldn't inherit any of the like cursed form stuff from him, but yeah, he ends up in like a beast form for a little bit, and then they get rid of the curse, but he's left with like fangs and a beard. And I thought, oh, okay, that's like kind of cool actually, and kind of make him seem more like, yeah, he's gonna be like Belle and the Beast's son. And I could see that being, because sometimes that happens, like a character gets their appearance changed and then little traits of that are left over like permanently or whatever. But no, that ends up going away too, and it's like they're introducing a lot of like interesting appearance stuff that could be played around with in the story, but it like only lasts for like a couple of minutes. Let me see what else. I like that since Hades, he's like, at least not in this movie, but like he's usually like king of the underworld and stuff, and instead he has a lair in this movie, but it's just like an underground mine, which was kind of reminding me of like Hades Town a little bit. I feel like that was actually kind of like a neat equivalent, I guess. And it's just like one room of this like mine cave or whatever. You only get to see it for like a little bit, but I thought that was kind of interesting. I think that's one of my favorite things with these movies is like the design of the Isles themselves and all of these locations that the villain parents live in and stuff. That was always cool to see. I actually kept thinking once they introduced Hades, like they already had established Audrey as the villain at that point, but I thought, oh, okay, maybe Hades is gonna also be the villain or be like the main villain, and Audrey's like a first half of the movie villain and then decides to become good. No, Audrey is like the main villain the entire time. Sorry, I just feel like she was so weak as a villain. That's like the thing that kind of ruins the movie for me. Everything else I feel like I was like mostly fine with though. And then they end up bringing back Uma and Harry, and I guess Uma's been like outside of the barrier this whole time. I don't know, because like you see her swim away at the end of the second movie, but then she's in the water again, just outside of like the Isles, like near the entrance of it. So I'm assuming she was outside the barrier. She's like been trying to find a way to break it. I do like with her character that she's still trying to figure out like how to help the other villain kids and stuff. And it's like as soon as her and Harry and I guess also the other guy appear, the movie just gets like way more fun, honestly. And I like that the plot basically changes to like Uma and Mal having to work together, and Evie's like trying to play mediator and stuff. You get to see Carlos's dog a little bit, who has like less screen time as the movies go on, which I'm completely fine with. I thought the dog being able to talk, there's like a plot reason for that in the second movie. It's because he ends up taking a truth gummy, And I thought, like, okay, that's it. That's just a gag for the second movie. No, he permanently gets the ability to talk. I hope that's not going to be like a continuing things in these movies. Not like I absolutely hate his character, but just like it just feels so pointless. There's a scene where they end up in a room full of like possessed suits of armor, and all of the characters end up grabbing swords, and I thought, okay, cool, we're gonna get like another sword fight thing, especially because there's so many characters in here and a lot of them know how to fight, you know, because the sword fighting scene with the pirates in the second movie was like one of the highlights. But no, they instead do an entire song and they have the armor dance, and they don't actually get to fight it. That's the other thing that was weird for me with this movie, is like they it's like the placement of songs, like when a song starts, doesn't really feel as natural anymore. I like how it was in the other movies, or like especially the first one, where it's like you can tell, you know, like, okay, there's probably going to be a song here, a character, I don't know, they're feeling a lot of things or whatever. Or even like with this one, like, okay, Audrey stealing the scepter and deciding to become evil, she gets a song, and then Evie deciding if she wants to kiss Doug and if she actually loves him or not gets a song. Like, that makes sense, but like they get to the room with the suits of armor and they get weapons and you think they're gonna fight, and then it's like, okay, song time. Just, I don't know, feels really random to me. And I feel like a lot of the songs aren't really as good in this movie. I feel like they're getting kind of just worse. I mean, I'm glad at least that like a lot of the characters can sing. That is something I will give the movie points for, but the songs themselves and just lyrically, I still don't really like them. And they do this thing in this movie where it's like whatever character is singing will like stare directly at the camera, and there's close-ups, and it's in a way that looks like it would be in like a music video instead of like it being part of, you know, a movie and stuff. And it just was like really distracting, and it happens multiple times. I didn't really like that. I did really like the choreography though for like Evie's song about like wanting to kiss Doug though. That was cool. She's like, it's just her in like this one little room for a while, but the way she's like moving around all these chairs and everything and like maneuvering around the room was cool. That is something else too. All of the movies have like pretty good like dance choreography and just the choreography in general for like the songs and stuff, especially when there's like big dance numbers, which they always seem to have at like the start or the end, or especially the end of the movie. That's always something that's consistent. That's cool. I do like we get some scenes of just like some of the male like characters and stuff getting to interact, because I feel like there's not really enough of that. Oh yeah, Jane. I completely forgot about Jane. She's not really with the main characters, but she does get like a couple of scenes where it's just her trying to like figure out how to stop Audrey. So I like that she still gets to be included. I thought it was kind of funny. She has a scene with Carlos because the movie takes place on her birthday, and he gets her a necklace, and it just says Jarlos on it, and just the idea of getting someone jewelry that is just your ship name is like really funny to me. But the characters play the scene so like, oh, this is so sweet and everything, that it doesn't feel surprisingly too goofy or anything. I do think Jarlos does kind of fit as like a ship name. I feel like it could, because he's like, yeah, let's combine our names together and whatever, and they get into like a whole conversation about it, or if it should be Kane or something. I don't know. I feel that's the thing though. I feel like, you know, because they're shipping for like every franchise basically of anything. I feel like when it comes to ship names of what I see online, I feel like sometimes when you do combine, like, oh, we're gonna just combine the characters' names or whatever, sometimes that can be kind of interesting, but I do kind of find it more memorable because I know what a lot of people do is if it's like aspects of the characters and then that gets put together as like ship names. Like I remember there's like a ton of those for like
I don't know, digital circus, for example. And that just kind of makes it more interesting. I feel like there could probably be some fun ones for like the series though, because you know all the characters are themed around like Disney characters and stuff. Let me see what else. Kind of talked about some of this stuff, like the final fight barely lasts, and it isn't like the confrontation with Audrey isn't really that interesting. They spend more time on like trying to wake Audrey up, but even that doesn't really have anything to do with Audrey. It's just Hades and Mal talking, and I already kind of talked about that of like you know, what are we gonna do about the barrier, and you know, are we gonna get sent back to the Isle and stuff? Let me see what else. But yeah, I feel like Audrey should have been sent to the. I mean, they do lift the barrier at the end, so there is no consequence anymore of like, you know, being sent to the Isle and everything. But I feel like Audrey should have been sent to the Isle. You know, like had some kind of punishment or whatever in the same way as like the villains would. Because I don't care that she apologized. It was like. Actually, I don't even remember if she apologized. I think she said sorry, and that was it. She didn't say what she was sorry for. And like I said, I do like that Mal and Ben get to apologize to her instead. She did deserve that. But the fact that she doesn't try apologizing of like, hey, I took over the kingdom, my bad. Or it's just more of like she doesn't get any kind of punishment is, I think, the main thing that bothers me. But yeah, they take the barrier down at the end, and Mal's on good terms with her dad and is gonna get married, and that's like, yeah, pretty much it. So yeah, this wasn't a bad movie. I was okay with it. It was worth it in getting to see, you know, these characters we've watched for the past two movies getting to have even more interactions. That was like the fun parts of the movie, honestly. I'm glad that Jay and Carlos especially Jay, get more to do with that. I'm glad they brought back Uma. She's still my favorite part of the series. I do think having Hades as a character, because I do like the concept of some of the new characters of like Hades is cool. I really liked Celia, and I wish she could have had more of anything with this movie. Honestly, I feel like she had potential. I doubt they were going to have anything interesting to do with Smee's kids. I feel like they were just specifically made and put into this as like okay, we need to invite like at least 4 new characters to, or I guess just 4 characters to be, you know, they're going to go to the island, but without them having to be part of the plot, which I feel like that does work, because like it's already a lot of characters in this, especially the people traveling with Mal, like to begin with. If you have too many characters, it just kind of turns into a mess. Which I've heard has, I think, been a complaint for some of the other ones. I don't really know. I guess I'll find out. Yeah, so there's like some interesting things with this one. But yeah, it definitely, and it's like, it's a fun watch, and I like these characters. I don't know if I'd watch it again. But yeah, story-wise, it feels super weak. I feel like they just, I don't know, changed things around, did better. As I feel like Audrey as a villain, even though she's not as interesting to me as like the other villains, she had like a legitimate reasoning of becoming a villain and could have been really interesting, but they just kind of don't. Yeah, that's like the movie's biggest weakness besides the weak story, is like they have all these characters but then don't really use them, or just kind of really underdevelop them. They don't really do much with Audrey. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. So I'll be watching, yeah, the next one, Rise of Red. I don't know if the 5th Descendants is ever gonna get like added to Hulu. I mean, if for whatever reason Rise of Red turns out to somehow be like fantastic, or like just as good as like the first 2 Descendants movies, then yeah, maybe like if I get to go to somebody's house and have access to Disney Plus, I'll like watch Descendants 5. But I'm just gonna say for now, I highly doubt that happening. I mean, I don't want to go into Descendants 4 with like, you know, like, oh, this is gonna be like bad or anything, but like I've heard some stuff of like this series kind of does get worse. I've heard at least I've heard mixed things actually of some people saying the fourth movie's better than the fifth one, and sometimes it's the other way around. I'm a little curious about that. But I mean, at least with Rise of Red, it's like, I mean, I do like Mal and her friends, but like only Mal and Evie seem to actually get to do anything. So even I feel like I kind of like a lot more of the side characters in these first three movies, and like her and her friends, their story, everyone's storyline is kind of like done by this movie. We don't really need to continue with these characters, so I'm fine with there being like new main characters. I do think it's going to be interesting going forward in this series of like, okay, the barrier's taken down, how is this going to affect stuff going forward? And I guess Wonderland, I'm assuming, is going to be like its own area of like Oregon or something, and whatever's gonna happen with that, I feel like could be interesting. I mean, I like Alice in Wonderland, I always have, so I always find adaptations of it in some way interesting. So yeah, excited to see whatever new characters there are. We'll see. Okay, bye bye.